Hi everybody, I'm Sandy Spallino and thanks for coming out with me today to cook some healthy food. Whether you want to learn some healthy recipes for Meatless Monday if you're just starting to try one day a week, or you've been on the road trying to become more vegetarian or vegan, or maybe you have kids who are vegetarian or vegan or friends and you have no idea what to cook for them when they come over. I want to show you how to make a really easy, it could be a lunch or dinner menu that everybody, meat eaters and vegetarian and vegans alike, will enjoy. It's healthy, it's super easy to put together, and I'm going to show you how to do it. So let's start with what we're going to make today is, I call it California salad niçoise, sort of like your traditional salad niçoise, which is made with tuna, but we're going to make the tuna out of chickpeas today. And I'm going to add some chopped avocado. That's why I call it California salad niçoise. And then we're going to make some chocolate muffins that don't have any eggs, no dairy, no butter, no oil. We're going to be substituting sweet potatoes and nut butters for that, and they're absolutely delicious. So I am going to start with the dessert because it's going to take 20 minutes to cook. Once I got that in the oven, we'll start with the salad, show you how to put it together, and I'll give you some tips along the way. So let's start out with the chocolate muffins. And everybody, I'm going to post the recipe so everybody will be able to have this and make it at home. So these chocolate muffins are super easy. We're going to start with the wet ingredients, and then we're going to go on to the dry ingredients after. The star of these is a sweet potato. It gives it the moisture and the binding. What I did is I just bought a regular sweet potato. I baked it in my oven at 400 degrees, probably for about an hour and 15 minutes. This recipe, you can make it chocolate, or if you prefer a vanilla muffin, all you do is you omit the cocoa powder in the recipe, and I would suggest the white sweet potatoes and that, the Japanese ones are white on the inside. It just makes for a better color if you're making them vanilla. But for our recipe today, we're making chocolate. So I've got my traditional sweet potato here. It's cooked. I made it yesterday. It's nice and cool. And I'm just going to scoop it out and measure a cup. So 1 cup of sweet potato. Okay. Go ahead and put that in the bowl. And then we're going to add half a cup of nut butter. I prefer cashew butter. I get this at Trader Joe's. You could use peanut butter in this recipe. Peanut butter chocolate always tastes good. You could use almond butter. So really any nut butter works. The cashew butter has the most neutral taste. And sweet potatoes and nuts, as we know, are really good for us. Now, this recipe is a dessert, keep in mind, so it does have some unhealthy ingredients like chocolate chips, but we have to live, right? For the sweetness, I'm going to add half a cup plus 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, an organic maple syrup. This is not a Trader Joe's commercial, but most of these ingredients I do find at Trader Joe's. 3/4 cup of any kind of plant milk you want. You could use cashew milk, almond milk. I'm using soy milk in this recipe, but really whatever you prefer. And we're going to mix this up. I've got my handheld mixer. You could do it by hand if you don't have a mixer. I just find it's quicker this way. It's a little splattering. Make sure I don't miss anything looking at my recipe. Just want to mix it up so it's all nice and smooth. All right. Splattering a little bit, but that's all right. Next, I'm going to add half a cup of cocoa powder. And this I am going to do by hand because I don't want that to splatter everywhere again. Okay, so I'm mixing in the cocoa powder. And if you want to go ahead and take a picture of that, you can see what that looks like. So next we're going to add the dry ingredients. So for the dry ingredients, it's really easy. We're going to put in, I've got a cup of flour, all-purpose flour here, and I've already mixed it with 3/4 teaspoon of baking powder and 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda. So going to just add this to the other ingredients, and I'm going to hand mix this in. So, and this is a very thick batter. So if it looks too thick, don't worry. It's meant to be thick. So let's mix that in by hand. Just gently fold it in. And if it really seems too thick to you, just add a little more of your milk, which actually this is coming out pretty thick for me. Sometimes the nut butter you use might be a little drier than other times, so you may have to add a little more moisture. So just mix in a little more liquid. Get it to a consistency that's a little bit easier to stir, which this is. And then last but not least, we're going to fold in 1/3 cup of chocolate chips. The best part in my book, if you're a chocolate chip lover. Okay, let's move that over. This recipe, usually if I make this, I double the recipe and I freeze half of them because they go pretty quickly. And then we are going to put it into these muffin tins. And all I do is I put in the paper liners, so it makes it super easy when you want to get them out. And just fill these up evenly. The recipe makes 12 muffins. And who doesn't like a chocolate muffin? So you just want to evenly distribute it between all the liners. And we're going to bake this for 22 minutes. And these are sweet enough that you don't need any frosting or anything, but once in a while I do make a chocolate frosting out of dates. They're sweetened just with dates, with no sugar and nut butters, and those make it extra decadent. I've also used this recipe and made a cake out of it. So I've doubled the recipe and then divided it between 2 to 3 6-inch cake pans and baked it and then frosted it with the date frosting for a birthday cake. That turned out really well. Healthier version of a birthday cake. Again, it's not 100% healthy, but it's a heck of a lot better than most chocolate muffins you can buy out there. All right, I'm going to stick this in the oven and bake it for 22 minutes. So let me move this and put it aside, and then we'll go ahead and start with the main course, which is a salad. So a lot of people ask me how long I've eaten this way or why I started eating this way. And I started because I had a health crisis 15 years ago when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So it was sort of a wake-up call. I was pretty young, 39 years old, and I just decided to change my diet to try to help beat it. So I've been eating not 100%, but I'd say 95% plant-based for the last 15 years. The other 5%, I kind of allow myself to eat whatever I want. So I do it more for health reasons than ethical reasons, but everybody has their different reason why they eat this way. For me, it works well, and I've been able to do it consistently for the last 15 years. Okay. Let me just push this to the side. So the key I find when you make recipes like this, or for any recipe for that matter, is planning ahead. So if you know that you're having company over for dinner and you want to make this recipe, buy the ingredients 3 days ahead. 2 days ahead, go ahead and bake that sweet potato already. For the salad has quite a few components, like potatoes and green beans. So yesterday I already cooked and boiled the potatoes and diced them. The more you can do ahead of time, make the dressing the day before. That way when people come over or you're serving dinner, you whip it up in 15 minutes flat. It's super easy. So this recipe, I'm going to use the food processor. You don't have to use a food processor for this recipe. You could use a potato masher, and I'll explain to you in a minute at what point. But just because it's quicker and easier, and I have a food processor, if you have one, it's very easy to use it. So this is a salad niçoise, and a traditional salad niçoise uses tuna fish. And this one, in place of the tuna, we're going to make something with the same flavor profile of the tuna, but we're going to use chickpeas, and we're going to season it with a lot of things that you'd expect in a typical the tuna part of the salad niçoise. So take a food processor, or if you don't have the food processor, do this in a bowl, like I said, with just a potato masher, because you want to mash the chickpeas. You want them to have some texture, but you want them to be broken down. So in the food processor, it's really easy. We're first going to make the vegan tuna out of the chickpeas. So I've got 2 cans of drained and rinsed chickpeas. I just get the organic garbanzo beans. You could also use home-cooked ones, but I do canned. So you're going to use 2 cans of these. And then, let me get a spoon. 2 tablespoons of capers. And that kind of gives them that briny, salty flavor. A pinch or 2 of salt, or 3. A little splash of apple cider vinegar, just to give it a little flavor. A splash of olive oil, just to give it a little bit of oiliness like you'd expect in a fish. Dill, so you can find this at markets, farmer's market, Trader Joe's. You need about a half a cup, so I got 2 packages. And I chopped it up. Not the stems, just the leaves. A shallot. You need about 3 tablespoons of shallots. So that's a little more. Oh, sorry. Shallots is for the salad dressing. This is red onion. Half a cup of red onion. I'm not actually reading. I don't have my glasses on, so I'm not actually reading the recipe. I'm going by memory here. 2 teaspoons of 1 to 2 teaspoons of Dijon mustard. So let's start with 1. And maybe I'll do 1.5. And then lemon juice. So I've already squeezed this lemon juice. Put a little bit in and then try it. And you can always add more afterwards when you have it in the bowl. But I'm going to put a little bit in. And my spoon. So the key when you use a food processor is you just want to pulse it about 5 times because you don't want it to be mush. You want it to have some texture. So I'm just going to pulse it. Stir it and look at it. So it needs a little more. So I'm just going to stir it a little bit. And I'll show you what it looks like once we've got it out. Just checking it because I want it broken down, but like I said, just like tuna is kind of flaky. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe it's easier if I put it in a bowl for you to see. But I want it to be a little flaky, and then let me try it to see if it has enough lemon juice, but I can always add more. It's pretty good. Might need a tiny bit more lemon juice, so let's add a little more. And then I always suggest, once you've got it, taste it for seasoning. So this needs some black pepper. Let me get some black pepper. Where did I put the black pepper? Well, I know there's black pepper here somewhere. We will find it. Here it is. Black pepper. So some freshly ground black pepper. If you have any seasonings in your refrigerator that you like to use on tuna, sometimes I add that. I don't know if you've ever, let me see if I can find it. This one. Herb sea salt, herbivore. That's really good in it. I didn't put it in the recipe just because I didn't want to put anything that was hard to find. But this is really good, gives it more of a tuna flavor. If you need a little extra salt, but just kind of play with it and get it to your liking. So let me see. Okay. Let's see. That's good. I'm going to go with it. Okay, so let me move this so you can see. So a lot of times when I have friends over, this is the recipe I'll make when I have a mix of people. Some who are vegan or vegetarian and some who aren't, because I can put out a huge, I can make this, and you'll see when we're done, huge, beautiful platter, and then I'll put out some fresh baked bread and some spreads for the bread, wine or whatever you like to drink. And everybody can serve themselves however much they like. I'll show you once we plate it, but it's very popular. Can you see that? So it has the color and texture and look of tuna. Okay, now we're gonna make the salad dressing. Let me put this here. Get out my tray. So for the salad dressing, you know, I love the salad dressings that you get in restaurants, but they're usually full of oil. I'm not anti-oil, but especially if it's cold and salads and things, I'm not cooking with it, so it doesn't degrade the nutritional value. But a traditional salad dressing will use maybe a 1/4 cup of acid, and the acid being lemon juice or apple cider vinegar or red wine vinegar, and 3/4 cup of olive oil. That's the traditional flavor profile. This has more acid than oil, so it's going to be tartar, but it works okay in the recipe. If you're not anti-oil, I would say up the oil a little bit in this recipe, but for the sake of this demonstration, this is what I'm going to do. So when I make my salad dressings, I like to make them in a jar so I can shake them and then just keep them in the refrigerator. This recipe is really easy. So we start with a 1/4 cup of olive oil. And I use the cold pressed virgin olive oil. I do a 1/3 cup of the white wine vinegar. I find this at Trader Joe's. And then we need shallots. So I've got about 3 tablespoons of shallots. This was the actual shallot recipe. Shallots you could get at supermarkets, Trader Joe's, anywhere. I used about a 1/2 of a big one like this. And then a little bit of maple syrup for sweetness, and a little bit of Dijon mustard. So where did I put my Dijon mustard? Dijon mustard's here. So let's do about a teaspoon of Dijon mustard. And this is maple syrup. So about 2 teaspoons of maple syrup. Okay. And a little salt and pepper. And a pinch of salt. And that's it. It's very easy. Easy to shake it up. I do it in something prettier when I serve it, but that's done. And now let's put the whole thing together so you can see what it looks like. So, your friends are coming over for dinner or lunch. Pick a platter, nice platter, and start with a butter lettuce. I prefer the whole butter lettuces that you can find, but I didn't have time to run out and find it. So I just got the packaged, already washed butter lettuce from Trader Joe's. I was being lazy. But if you can find the fresh one, all the better. So what you're going to do is just lay it out nicely on a platter. Remove this stuff so it's easier for you to see. And then mound, now the amount of chickpea tuna I have this recipe make is double what you really need here. As long as I'm going through the process of doing it, I like to make a big batch because whatever's left over I'll put in the refrigerator and make a sandwich out of it the next day or something. Also, if I'm serving 6 or 8 people, you need this much because I'll do a really big platter and make a much bigger salad to serve. But for the sake of this demonstration, I'm just going to use part of it in this smaller platter. So then it's just arranging it however you like. I'll tell you the way I do it, but you can get creative and do it a different way. I usually put the chickpea tuna in the middle. It's probably enough for now. And then I made these green beans yesterday, so just bought some fresh green beans, cut the ends off, boiled them for 2 or 3 minutes. You want them tender but a little al dente. So, and I cut them in half. So go ahead and just put the green beans on the platter. And I like to separate everything just for the color, and that way if somebody doesn't like green beans, they don't have to pick that. And then some potatoes. These again, I bought the organic baby potatoes. Potatoes I always like to buy organic. Same with the green beans. And I boiled them in some water till they were tender, cooled them, and then cut them in quarters. So we're gonna put some potatoes, because potatoes also are really filling and satiating, and who doesn't like potatoes? And then some fresh organic cherry tomatoes that I've cut in half. Okay. And last but not least, some olives. I have a mix of green olives and Kalamata. And you can play with the salad. So I've made this salad before where I added some roasted carrots and other vegetables that I put on the tray. I mean, you can go crazy with the amount of colors and different vegetables you want. And then last but not least, I add an avocado, because everybody loves avocados. And you can just sprinkle it a little around. But you can see once you have all the pieces put together, once you do your prep ahead of time, if you're having people come over and you're working and busy during the day and you don't have time to spend hours that day preparing the meal, this comes together very quickly. So then just add a little bit of avocado wherever you want it. And you can do, you know, a couple. I only put in 1 avocado, but you can throw in 2 or 3. And then I like to season it a little bit once it's on the platter. So I like to add some extra black pepper and extra salt. Not, of course, not on the olives. The olives have enough salt. If you're watching your salt intake, of course, you wouldn't do this. But if you're not, the vegetables need a little bit of flavor. Where did I, oh, here's the salt. And then you can do it either way. I'm not going to do it now, but usually I'll put this in a pretty serving container, and I'll put a tiny bit over the salad beforehand, just a little, but then I'll leave this in a container on the table as people serve themselves so they can put as much salad dressing on that they prefer. But if you want to get that shot, you can see what the final product looks like. Is it easier if I put it up there for you? So you can see it's a really impressive, easy salad to make. And I mean, if you put this with some homemade bread, which I happen to have, that was made this morning. You know, what else do you really need? That and a good bottle of wine for dinner, or a nice club soda, or whatever you like to drink, and chocolate muffins for dessert. I think most people would be pretty happy with that. So let's see the muffins. Good timing, 40 seconds, and they're gonna be done. So you can see those when they come out. I wish you could try them, because they're so good. But the cameraman will be able to try them. And I wish that I had somebody in front of me if they had some questions, but feel free to email me or call me if you ever have any questions. I'm happy to answer them. So muffins are done. Let's take them out. So you can see how much they rose. I mean, it's really pretty shocking how much they taste like regular rich chocolate muffins you'd buy in a bakery. They rise and they're cake-like, even though they have no eggs or butter or milk or nothing in them. Remember, it was just sweet potato and cashew butter. So I'm always shocked how well they do. Let me get a plate. They're a little hot to cut open, but I do want to show you what they look like inside. You know, to cut open a muffin this hot out of the oven, probably not the best, but for sake of the video, because we don't have that the luxury of making you wait for it to cool off. We'll see if this works. Can you see? I mean, it's really loose. They'll firm up because when they cool down, but it really is, they're delicious. So thank you for joining me, and I hope you try the recipe. I hope everybody on whatever journey you're on, whether you're trying to lose weight, whether you want to do it for the environment, animal protection, whether you're doing it because you have high cholesterol or high blood pressure or cancer, or whatever the reason that you want to try to eat more plant-based, or whether it's just meatless Mondays, I hope you try this recipe because it's really easy and I guarantee everybody will like it. So thank you for joining me.